Good morning, everybody. We'll wait just another minute or so to see if we have any other people joining us this morning. All right, we're just a few minutes past 9, so I think we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to the pre-proposal conference for the request for proposals for the Ventura County Transportation Commission Public Transit Outreach and Community Outreach Program. I'm Darren Peshka. I'm the Program Manager for Government and Community Relations at VCTC. I am overseeing this RFP. Just so you know a little bit about me, I'm really new to VCTC. I've been here about 6 weeks now. So I will do my best to answer as many questions and add to the discussion about this program, but I am going to turn it over to Darren Kettle, who's the Executive Director of VCTC, to lead the discussion.
Great. Thank you, Darren, and good morning, everybody. So again, I'm Darren Kettle. I'm the Executive Director, and I've been here a few more days than 6 weeks. I've actually been here about 13 years. Later this in October. We got a couple members of our team that are also on the call that you will see in video. That's Martin Erickson, our Public Transit Director, and Aaron Bonfilio, who is our Transit Services Project Manager and oversees the day-to-day transit operations. We see a few people coming on, and so this is, again, just by way of introduction. We're all operating in a different environment here. But so Darren Peshka joins VCTC from a number of years in the journalism industry. Had been with the Ventura County Star for 18 years before coming and deciding that she wanted to try something new. And as much as she'll be leading the RFP process here, more importantly, as you look at our RFP and you see the term of our contracts, she will also be the project manager for all activities related to community outreach and public transit outreach. So she will be the person, the point of contact for all activities related to our community outreach program, and with support from Martin and Aaron as it relates to public transit. So real quickly, just a couple of high-level things. We have received a number of questions from interested parties. I will say in my review of the questions, some of them were a little deep in the weeds. We will try to get answers to some of those questions posted by the end of this week, so there's information out there. But just at a high level, just a couple of things real quickly. The plan here is I'm going to give you a little high level conversation. I'm going to touch on a few questions that we want to hit on, or possibly Darren, Aaron, or Martin will. And then we'll open up to a little bit of Q&A that we will then try to just respond to. So the nature of VCTC's outreach program is really threefold at the highest level. The first is general County Transportation Commission, broad, wide-ranging sort of outreach and branding, who we are as an agency. You will, if you were to pull up our most recent copy of our budget, you will see, and this is for those of you that ask questions regarding what our historic budget has been for various programs. I'd encourage you, and this is by way of an answer to some of the questions that have come up, of what's the budget like? Please go back and look at our past budgets. That information is readily available in three distinct tasks. One of those tasks is the one I was just mentioning. It's broad public outreach and communications. It does all the things that we deal with that are not going to be specific to a certain program area. So it's general branding activities, community events, that type of conversation. Please go back and take a look at our budget, our most recent budget that is now published on our website, to do a little bit of homework in that area. The other two areas, though, are a bit more program specific, and I may turn this over to Martin and Aaron here in a second, is very much public transit related and trying to outreach to deliver improvement in public transit and try to grow ridership. You'll be very, you should be able to tell that I'm not going to use the term marketing in this conversation. This is not a marketing discussion. Our funding sources actually are very specific, and technically marketing is not a allowable expense, but transit outreach is. So we are trying to outreach to our community to encourage the use of public transit. And so that's something that Martin and Aaron's team will be responsible for. And then also the other program, the third program, is for ride sharing. We are the ride share support agency in Ventura County. And several years ago, we did have an employee that was handling our rideshare management, and now we have shifted that to to support from our consulting team. So that's a high-level conversation about the nature of the sort of the three focus areas. Again, general community outreach that for the agency, public transit outreach really targeted at supporting growth in public transit ridership, and thirdly, carpooling. So I'm going to stop there. I want to ask Martin first if you have anything that you'd like to add.
Sure. Thank you, Darren and Darren. We have two Darrens with us now. Just following up on what Darren Kettle had said, I am the transit director here at VCTC, and the Transportation Commission provides transit through the big blue buses you see, the VCTC intercity services, as well as we also provide transit service in an area called the Heritage Valley, which is the cities of Santa Paula, Fillmore, and the unincorporated area around Piru. And just, to talk about how much the world has changed since January, well, since March really. As Darren noted, one of the things we have been trying to do, along with other transit operators around Southern California and the country, is before the pandemic, there was challenges in transit ridership. It was declining in many areas. It had been declining for us. We had just come off what I considered a very successful program of implementing 2 fare increases. And for those of you who've been involved in that before in the past, those can be very challenging sometimes and controversial. I think largely due to the effective outreach we had and community input, those went off very well. And so the second phase was just introduced last January, and we were starting to see some improvement in our ridership. We had a lot of new initiatives underway. 2020 was just looking like a real exciting transit year, and then the pandemic came. So obviously responding to that has been a real challenge in terms of how we do outreach, how we do transit operations, and that's kind of cut across all our messaging. So I say that just to say that there's obviously a program here, and we're looking for outreach assistance in a lot of different areas, but life circumstances can change, and the messages change with that too. So that's what we're looking for in this response, is people who are also adaptable and able to help us continue to message effectively. But there is a lot happening in the transit world right now, and in the messaging. Obviously, the interface with technology, and Aaron can touch on a few of those points too. How we message to not just retain riders, but attract riders. We had a very successful program in college students that we were able to initiate. So you can read about that too on our system. And then finally, the commuter services component, as Darren mentioned, that's something that carpooling right now is not really happening to a large extent either. obviously with the pandemic. So one of the things we've been promoting is teleworking. Added that to our website and had those type of features. So again, just touching on a few of those things. I can let Aaron add some more. I really appreciate all of you having an interest in this, and I'm looking forward very much to moving forward from here and answering questions.
So Aaron, what you got?
Sure. Hi, folks. I'm Aaron Bonfilio, Program Manager at VCTC. And I should mention my counterpart, Claire Grasty, who's not here, is also a Program Manager and oversees a handful of the projects listed in the RFP. But with respect to the transit projects that I work on, it's the actual operations of our bus service, the technology program, which offers passengers real-time information as well. We have a mobile ticketing project that's underway. So exciting stuff on the transit side of things for people like me. And with that comes a variety of outreach activities, making sure that we've promoted this well to the public, that we can foster some adoption and hopefully growth and ridership associated with it. And then there's a lot of nuts and bolts, sort of, I guess, meat and potatoes activities that take place as well, updating schedules, helping us make changes to the website where needed, graphic design, press releases, things of that nature associated with those sort of seasonal changes that we go through. So I think that just about covers it. There's a lot of nitty-gritty questions that came in, how big is our table, how big is the booth we might have. I would just suggest that those are, while important, are not necessarily fixed in stone either. So there's a lot of opportunity to provide to us or propose to us, your creative solutions. And I don't want to overstep, but I think I just wanted to make that point that you all as the proposers, and I do a lot of RFPs, it's incumbent upon you, the onus is on you to tell us how you would help improve things here at VCTC as you see them from your vantage point.
Thank you, Aaron. That's I appreciate that. That's actually a really good segue. I was going to go there. That is sort of this expectation. We did get a number of questions that ask about what have you done in the past? What about this? What's your social media in the past? That's all out there. I am not a guy that I don't like to dwell on the past. I like to have new ideas coming forward, and particularly in this environment where the world's a very, very different place. If you're curious about things that we've done in the past, we do produce an annual report of our community outreach program. We have a new one that's going to be posted in the very, very near future. We can make the last 3 of those available to the consultant community, just so you can see what the work that we have done in the past. We have done all of our work in the past with consultant support. You will see a very, very lean VCTC team. The fact that Darren has joined us just added, when we're still really, really lean, but at least we have some really, really smart help that is going to be managing this program, that has some expertise in this. And so we're going to be able to utilize that. But we are at a place where we want the consulting community to come in and say, here are our ideas about ridership, ride share, the general brand of VCTC, what we're getting right, more importantly, what are we getting wrong, and what should we do to improve it. In the RFP, I believe we referenced that right now we should anticipate a budget of somewhere on the order of about $500,000 or so on an annual basis. This contract will, the first contract will only be 3.5 years, because we're halfway through a fiscal year when we would be starting this contract. So out of the gate, we'd be looking at, in the first 6 months of this contract, about $250,000 in round numbers. As Aaron said, it's not set in stone. We have some round figures for that, but based on our prior years, that is about the range we've been. We have occasionally had something that was sort of above and beyond, if we were going to try a campaign or something along those lines. When we did our local sales tax measure in Ventura County in 2016, we did do a we had a separate, really very specific task of how do we inform the community about our transportation sales tax measure that was on the ballot. That was extensive, a very extensive campaign. That was a public information effort. So, but in round numbers, you should be anticipating about $500,000 and generally split about 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 between those three programs, general outreach, public transit, and rideshare. Those are the points that I think I wanted to come back to. We have a lot of information on our website right now, so I'd encourage you to do that. We will make sure to all proposers that are on this call, we will make sure that you have our last 3 year-end reports of what we've done on the outreach side of things, because it does cross over into all those different programs, give you a feel for what's happened in the past. I think that covers the items that I want to cover. Darren, is there anything that I've missed that that you want to chime in on?
No, I think the only thing that I would add, and it kind of is in regards to sort of my specialties and my role in all of this, is sort of elevating the VCTC brand and make sure that, you know, we are recognizable across Ventura County. And one of the things that I'm interested in, and I believe it's mentioned in the RFP, is the use of social media and digital tools, you know, to extend our reach across the county. So those are things that I'm looking for.
Perfect. So unless there is anything else from the VCTC staff that are on this Zoom, I'm going to open it up to questions. I think everybody is in this, is recognized as an attendee in this. So you would, if you would unmute your mic, maybe raise a hand. If you're video, I can see, I believe I can see everybody that's on this call on my monitor. So I could just take a little high sign from anybody that, you know, gives me a finger, so I can, not the finger, but a finger, sorry about that. Sorry, a little bit of humor. Anyhow, okay, so let me, my staff thought it was funny. Anyway, that will, let me go ahead and open it up to questions. Again, we received a number of questions from a few folks. In some cases, when we respond back, we're just gonna say, go back and look at our website, go back and look at our social media feed. I think I've tried to hit the budget questions. One thing I will say, I think we did get one question about the number of pages that we would have in the RFP. And Darren Peshkin, can you remind me what I said when we talked about this?
Yes, what you said was there's a 50-page limit for the proposal, and that means either 50 single pages or 25 pages front and back.
Perfect. That's what I thought I'd remembered, but it's been a few days, so thank you for refreshing my memory. So with that, I'm going to go ahead again, and if I'm going to look for questions on the monitor. I see a, is it Thea or Taya Selby?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. Yes. Do you have a question?
Thank you. Yes, I do. Thank you very much. This is very helpful. And I apologize, we didn't get any questions, and so you may be answering this in the future. But I'm curious if there is a current consultant team that's working with you, and if they will be bidding again.
That is a good question. Again, I'll refer back to our really skeleton crew we have here at VCTC. We only have now added Darren with real expertise in this field. We have done historically, we have used a consultant. I've been here 13 years, and we've had a couple of different consultants that have supported us in this effort. We do currently have a consultant that is on contract with us through the end of December. I would expect that they would be interested in this RFP again. They've done fine work for us, and I would expect that they would be interested again.
Thank you.
Certainly. Other questions? Looking around.
Hey, Darren.
I see Emily Kerwin. Emily, go ahead.
Yeah. Are you able to elaborate a little bit more about the Bikeways app and kind of the expectations around that, even if it's just general?
Yeah, so that was an inadvertent inclusion in the and we apologize for that. We were using an RFP that had some history to it. I don't expect that we'll see a whole lot as it relates to Bikeways map and app. We do have one at VCTC. It's at this point out of date. We're going to be updating. If there's going to be anything that comes out of it, there may be an opportunity, not to get ahead of where all of you really smart outreach folks might go about, particularly in a COVID world and the growth in biking and walking and active transportation in general, becoming a more recognized mode in this world. But right now, it's not something that's going to be very high on our priority list just because it is currently out of date. But we may get to that point where it makes sense. I will add one of the reasons why, particularly on the app side, is what we're finding in the public sector is that there are third-party apps that are doing a far better job than anything that we would do on our own, and at a much cheaper rate. So I don't know that we will. It was a cool whiz-bang thing 5 or 6 years ago when we first did our bike map and app. Obviously the industry's changed and third parties do a pretty good job.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, do we have other questions?
Hey, Darren, it's Kirby Lecca. How are you?
Hello, Kirby. Just fine. Thanks.
Yeah, I saw that there was a note in there about the ETC database and just database in general. Do you guys have a database? Will we have access to it? That type of thing, because we'll be thinking obviously about rolling that into a lot of digital stuff.
Good question. I'm going to hand that over to Martin Erickson.
Sure, thanks. Kirby, when you say the ETC, you're talking the Employee Transit Coordinators?
You had that. That
Yeah.
was one note. And then also just in general, if there is a database. In other words, one of the things we're trying to do is go, let's take a look at what you already have that may be gold, and how can we build more gold into your database?
Sure. Well, as Darren mentioned, we the function this is part of the ride share function. It also stems into the required air pollution control district surveys that employees have to do. So you're familiar with all that,
Right?
I'd say it's an evolving database. There is an existing one, but that is something that we are continuing to work more closely on, especially with the recent transition where carpooling, for obvious reasons of the pandemic, has really ceased, and there's been a shift toward teleworking, telecommuting, and really, I think the whole idea of there's this kind of formal process that has to be done for the surveys that the air pollution control district is doing, and we're constantly trying to find ways. Well, how can we use that that database, that infrastructure, to promote the rest of what we're doing, whether it's transit or ride share and others. So I'd say it's existing, but it's certainly a work in progress.
Okay. All right.
Hey, this is Phyllis Corbeau. How's everyone this morning?
Hello, Phyllis. Good morning.
Hi.
It's all yours.
Thank you. I wanted to know, does the budget include outside costs like printing, advertising, any kind of outside expense?
In most cases, yes. We try to treat this as a turnkey. There are going to be some exceptions when we have like a major campaign that we may have to, that won't be part of the contract. But in some cases it will be. It's just going to depend. But on the transit side, as an example, that does include, correct me if I'm wrong, Martin or Aaron, the printing of schedules and those types of things are wrapped into this contract. They're not separate. Am I right? Please correct me, Martin or Aaron, if I've got that wrong, but I thought we wrapped that into the budget.
Occasionally we'll we'll ask the contractor, you all, to provide the direct expense. However, most recently we've been separating that out. So we've actually extracted the payment for printing specifically and left the development of the collateral, the development of the brochures on the outreach side. I want to say it's roughly a $20,000 per year expenditure when we pay for it directly.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So there's a correction to that. So we all the graphic work and everything else, consultant, and then we for the actual printing production, we'll cover that cost separately from the contract. Thank you, Aaron, for making sure we get that right.
May I ask a clarification? This is Heidi Johnson.
Hello, Heidi. Yes, please go ahead.
On that, the roughly 20K for printing, is that just related to the schedules or printing in general? Because my question was the same as Phyllis about how much is generally expected to be set aside for production expenses and such.
It is the 20 is mainly on the transit schedule side of things. We do not, we have not typically done a lot of printing on the other areas. Most of it's all digital. The exceptions to that are, well, like I said, an example, when we did our Measure AA program in 16, we did have a very separate contract, and printing was a much bigger number. It wasn't transit related, but that was called out separately. We would only do that in that kind of instance. Generally speaking, our print budgets, other than public transit, are going to be relatively pretty small. We will, depending on how, depending on where things are from an ad perspective, we may wrap ads into the contract, but more often we have tried to do that. Well, we've done it both ways. Sometimes it's in the contract, sometimes it's not. We just try not to constrain ourselves one way or the other. So sometimes we'll do some of our newspaper ads. We've gone both directions, Heidi, where we've paid it ourselves, or we've run it through the consultant.
I guess it's most relevant with the actual transit advertising, like the bus shelters and the buses and such themselves. Often you can include that cost as part of the ad cost that the production's included, or it could be considered a separate production cost, I guess.
Right. We so most of and again, this is, maybe I should let Aaron chime in here as it relates to the transit outreach side of things. Most of it we've really shifted to digital, and we have some print, that just to cover with our local the local newspapers, the Ventura County Star, the Acorn, the BC Reporter.
Sure.
But that's a relatively small component of any of the contract.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Darren, it's Kirby again.
Yes.
You guys manage your own website?
We do. We have an IT guru here that does all that, but he is an IT guru. He is not a internet graphic guy. So our current website was designed by the consultant support a couple of years ago to bring it all up to current standards and meet ADA requirements and those types of things.
Right.
Our super bright IT guy, but he's not a web designer. So we've recently done that. That's not to say that over the course of what could be potentially a 5.5-year relationship with a 3.5-year initial contract and a couple of extensions, or is it just 1 2-year extension? I'm not remembering it correctly. Maybe it's Darren. Can you correct me if I'm wrong? What our extension options were?
I'm on mute, so I'm just double checking the RFP here. So it is.
I think we went with 1 2
1
year.
extensions for 2 years.
Yeah. So it could be thank you. It could be a 5.5-year arrangement, and we may need to do, as fast as this world's changing, it wouldn't surprise me if we need to do a freshen up of our website at some point too. So I could see that that happening, Kirby.
Will the consultant be responsible for keeping the website fresh and updated with new content and information, or is it hand off to the IT guy to post it, or how does that work?
It's actually a hand in hand more than a handoff.
Okay.
Our IT guy works very closely with the consultant to make sure we have it done right.
Perfect.
So yeah, and currently our consultant absolutely supports fresh content, keeping things up along with the VCTC IT staff, and then we've got other content that like agendas and that type of thing are being worked through our clerk. So it's a combination of, it really is very much a team approach between the consultant and our staff.
Great, thank you.
Sure. Okay, do we, any other questions?
Hi, good morning. This is Luke Young. I do have a question related to one of the other RFP that you guys have on the transit integration that's currently out. Between these two projects, are there going to be any crossovers or related tasks that will be working hand in hand?
That's a great question, and thank you for bringing up the other RFP. That's something that Martin Erickson is getting to deal with real time. I expect that the transit, what I'm calling our transit futures RFP, because I think we're going to see a change over the next few years. We would expect that the consultant that supports that will have their own outreach program. They're going to be doing much of that on their, and there is going to be a stakeholder component, but the expectation is going to be is that consulting team will be doing that separately. There may be a little crossover, Luke. It's a good question, but I don't expect it to be very much, because again, we're expecting the consultant in that area to really cover all of those efforts. There may be, there may be some crossover, but I would expect it to be very, very little, Luke.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And again, it's mainly just because the expectation is that on this other RFP that's out there, that it is going to be a extensive effort, and it's going to have its own outreach component. Okay. Are there any other questions? Okay, perfect. Well, I appreciate everybody taking the time and being interested in our program. We're excited about it. We're excited about the next few years and having Darren lead our outreach program here at VCTC. We will try to have answers to the questions that we received posted by the end of this week. I will only, in closing, I will add that VCTC is moving after 30 years at 950 County Square Drive. We are going to be relocating our offices to Camarillo. Your proposals, when you submit them, I believe we're asking for 5 copies. And keep in mind that page limit, you would be sending those to our new address at 751 Daily Drive in Suite 420, Camarillo, California 93010. That is our new space. We are on the 4th floor, and we will be moving in next Monday. So it's right around the corner. And no, we aren't packed yet. So we got work ahead of us. So I really appreciate only having a half-hour pre-proposal conference so we can get back to packing. So yeah, that's where things are. And so Darren, I'm going to turn it back over to you if there's any other closing comments.
The only thing I have, we probably should have done this at the beginning, but would it be possible to take a roll call, or I just want to make sure that I have a full accounting of everyone who is participating.
Let me ask Roxana. I don't know if she's able to pick up. Yes, she is. Do we have a way to be able to identify all of those that are on this Zoom, Roxana?
Yes, we do actually. So I'll get all of that information to you, Darren, but I think we're good.
Okay, great. Thank you, Roxana.
Right.
Perfect. Okay, well, thanks again, everybody, for your time. Keep an eye open on our website for at the end of this week. I would only again encourage you of some of those basic questions about budget, programs, social media, all of that stuff is out there. And so take a look at that so you can see the work that we've done over the last few years. It is pretty accessible. And when we do post those questions, answers to those questions, we will also make sure that the year-end report for the last 3 years is also available for your perusal. And with that, everybody have a great rest of, I think it's Tuesday. So have a great rest of your Tuesday and a good week.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.